everybody, and thanks for tuning in today or watching Virtual Eats Guru, where barbecue and grilling make tasty. So today we're going to be making carne asada, which is one of our family's favorite. And so all the produce and the meat that you see here came from Daily Owned Foods, which I'll provide a link in the video that you can click on if you want to learn more about what they offer. But basically they're a fantastic local grocery store and Mexican meat market, and so getting the right types of meat to do this is really important, from the quality of the meat, the taste, what you can do with the meat, those kind of things. So we're going to start out with a pretty simple marinade for the most part, and the meat we get is called ranchetta, which is the flat meat, and it's different than some of the other types of meat that some folks may use for carne asada. But I really like this type of meat because it's well marbled, which means as we cook it, the fat will render, give it more flavor. It's really tender, juicy, pulls apart really nicely. If you get leaner types of meat, it tends, at least for us, it's not quite as tasty as these ones with some of the fat in it. But we'll be able to talk through some of that. And so from a starting point to marinate the meat, we need to use, so I use some fresh squeezed lime as well as regular lime juice. And I use an orange juice type deal that's got a lot of different citrus flavor in it that kind of helps break down the meat, and then the carne asada seasoning. And then we add some onions and some cilantro to kind of garnish it, to finish it off. And then we'll marinate it, and that'll be a minimum of 2 hours. But sometimes you may want to marinate it overnight or a little bit longer if you want to. But the longer you marinate it, the more flavor you get. But it'll work. So let's get started. We'll get some of our fresh limes going first. And you can just use the juice if you want to. I like the fresh squeezed lime a little bit to give it a little more of that kick, a little bit more of that natural flavor. But again, you don't have to. Okay, so now that we're done with that stage, I'm going to add in more of the lime juice and more of the orange juice. And the lime juice is probably like 1/3, 2/3 type deal, so a little more of the orange juice versus the lime because we don't want it too bitter. But that'll kind of give that sweet tart flavor. And I'm creating the bath here, and so we'll run the meat through, kind of shake it off, throw it in there, and then I'll season both sides of the meat with the carne asada seasoning. Okay, so now we got our bath going, and I'm gonna keep one hand dry for doing the seasoning. Makes it a little bit easier. And this you can be somewhat liberal with. You don't want to overdo it, but you want to get it on there decent. These are pretty good thin slices of meat, so you don't need to overdo it on this part. And then you add in some of the onions, just kind of layer it, because these are going to stack on top of one another. And so you only need to put this really on the top side, if you will. And I don't overdo it on the cilantro. And the cilantro, I've got fairly large flakes, because when it's done marinating, I actually take that stuff off and just cook the meat the way it is. And we've got about 5 pounds of meat. In this case, we like to cook enough so we have extras. And we'll actually make Mexican street tacos on day 2. So today we'll eat it just traditional carne asada, and then the next day we'll actually cut it up, fry it up in some butter, and put it in tacos, and it's phenomenal. So I'll add a link to that as well in the video, either at this point or later on when we're actually making the other tacos. And for this one, I'm just going to season the one side basically, because we're stacking them on top of each other. So I don't need to season both sides. The other side will mold in there, and they'll get plenty of seasoning. So just go through the whole process, keep stacking, keep seasoning, and let them marinate. So we've got our marinade all set up and done, and as you can see, I kind of stacked the meat in a variety of ways to lay it on top of itself, but kind of spread it out so it would get in the full use of the pan. You could put it in something smaller. I kind of like this configuration so that I can, lay it out and get more pieces, not everything stacked on top of one another. It kind of opens it up a little bit. But the juices, the acidity in the juices, both the lime juice and the orange juice, will help not only break down the meat, but obviously helps bind the carne asada seasoning to the meat, but it's also going to help break it down and help it penetrate and kind of tenderize our meat. So with this, I'm going to leave this for a minimum of 2 hours in the fridge, but without it being covered. I kind of like the air to penetrate and just start helping that process of breaking down the meat. And again, I probably have today. I have probably 4 hours where I'll be able to leave this in the fridge and marinate it. I like to do it overnight if I can. It just didn't work out that way, but you can certainly do that. So we'll throw it in the fridge, and then we'll take it out when it's ready to go, and then we'll talk about how we're going to smoke it for a little bit, and then how we're going to cook it, and then how we're going to eat it. Alright, so we've got the meat marinating, and it's marinated for pretty close to 4 hours, so we're going to get the grill started. And what I like to do is I'll start the grill, set it up the way you normally do to get the Traeger going, and then I actually set it to 180 degrees to smoke it. And I only do that for about 10 to 15 minutes on the meat. It's thin meat, doesn't need a lot of smoke, but it gives a little more of that smoky flavor because we're not going to cook these that long. And then I ratchet it up, turn it on to high, and leave it for about 10 minutes, and then just kind of check it, and then flip it, and maybe another 5, just depending on how it's cooking and how it's progressing. With all that marbling in it, you'll be able to cook it a little bit longer. So, but we'll get the grill going, and then we'll get the meat on there. Alright, so we got our smoke rolling here, and we're going to throw on the meat. And like I said, I got it set at 180 for a little bit. We'll do that 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'll ratchet the temperature up, and we'll cook it. And probably not all the meat I have will fit on this, so it may take me 2 rounds to do it, but that's no big deal. So we'll throw the meat on and see how she goes. We'll give that a whirl. We'll check her back here in about 10-15 minutes. Alright, so we got some good smoke on these, so we'll take a look, and then we're going to ratchet the temperature all the way up to high so that we can start rendering some of that fat and cooking it down and kind of, crisp them up a little bit and cook them, and then we'll eat them. So perfect, I'm not going to flip them at this stage. There's no point because it didn't do much of the cooking of any sort. It literally just kind of gives them that extra smoky flavor that you want on them. So we'll turn this guy up to high. I'll turn it up to high, and then I'll actually, since it's cooler right now, obviously, I'll come back and check them in about 10 minutes to see if I need to flip them, which I probably will at that point. If not, we'll leave them on a little bit longer, and just till we start seeing the right consistency of what we want out of them. See you in a few. Alright, so we turn the temperature up, and we're up to just about 400 degrees. So I'm going to take a look at them. My guess is it's time to flip them on the other side. So yep, just perfect. So you can see the fat starting to render, kind of, seasoning the meat with all the seasoning we added into it. All the other stuff we put on there, just kind of marinating on there. Nice and juicy. And with my family, there's some that like it more done than others, so The stuff on the edges tends to cook a lot hotter, so that's the ones that the kids like, and I like the stuff more towards the middle. That's a little more rare, if you will. And some of the thicker pieces. So everything's been flipped over, and we'll give it probably another 2-3 minutes on this side, and then we'll be done. So these are on for 2-3 minutes, and they're cooked just right. They're pretty thin pieces of meat, so we definitely don't want to overcook them. We got some that'll be a little more than others, but that's perfect. So there's something for everybody. So what I do is I just take them, and we just put the pan with some aluminum foil that we can drop them in and let them rest a little bit to kind of set up, and then we'll show you how to make the tacos. Alright, so our meat sat for a little bit, so we'll grab a piece. And this is a part that, you know, is very hands-on. You don't have to worry about, you know, being too clean or whatever. I mean, you could use a knife if you want, but this stuff just pulls apart and makes really easy taco meat. So you just kind of pull apart the pieces that you want. And I like mine a little bit thicker. People may want them thinner, whatever they want, not a big deal. And you get enough that you get for a taco. And then you grab your tortilla. In this case, I'm using flour tortilla, which is my favorite. Some people like corn tortillas or whatever you want to have them with. Some people just like the meat, but I like it with a flour tortilla. So you get loaded up with meat, and then you can grab your onions, jalapenos, whatever you want, you know, it's to your taste. And then out of my wife's garden are tomatoes. And then put on some cilantro. And then squeeze a little bit of lime on there. And we'll see how we did. That's legit. Very good. So tomorrow, I'll send a link in this, but to our Mexican street tacos. We'll do those tomorrow with the leftovers. For a taco, and you take that there, and then with my slippery hands, I can't open up the tortilla because I'm not going to do it. I can't open the tortilla thing.